All right. Hello, everybody. It's Thursday, which means we're doing our weekly Facebook Live. We took a little break last Thursday, but we're back today and we're talking all about metabolism. And I'm going to bust some myths around metabolism. It's something that's important, even if you aren't overweight or don't care about your weight, but I think that's where people kind of go right away. They think metabolism, it's fast or slow, which isn't true. So I'm going to talk about that. And then I'm going to give you just some reasoning as to why it's important to support it, something that I wish I knew in my early 20s from the get-go of paying attention to what I was eating and exercising. I wish I knew how the metabolism worked, and I would have saved myself a lot of health repercussions down the road. And then I'm going to give you some actual tips to support it if you need to support it, or improve it if you feel like maybe you've already done some damage to it. And I say damage because it's just that your metabolism has adapted and compensated in a way that is protecting you. So your body's goal is to survive, and so it will adjust accordingly to help you survive. And so your metabolism's not necessarily broken, but it's working against your goals that you want to achieve. So with all of that, let's get into it. I'm going to take a quick drink of my Spindrift. This is the pineapple one, which is probably one of my favorites. And so, as always, if you're watching this live, let me know that you're here so I can say hi. And then if you're watching the replay, which I know a lot of you do come back to this and watch it later on, then just let me know in the comments that you're watching the replay, even if it's just for 5 minutes. You don't have to watch the entire thing necessarily. I'd love it if you did, and I think it'll be valuable. But if you're just here for 5 minutes, just put that you're watching it in the comments. And also, this helps other people in the group to see it. And if you have other friends in this group who you want to see it, then tag them so that they do see it, because a lot of stuff gets lost in the Facebook feed and world. So I get notifications on Facebook that I don't see until like 2 weeks later, and I'm like, oh, I didn't even know. So definitely do that, and just drop it in the comments. And then if you have questions as you're watching the replay, let me know in the comments, and I'll be coming back to this and answering any questions that you have later on. So let's get into it. We're going to talk about first why having a healthy metabolism matters. Like I said in the beginning, it's not just something to care about if you have weight loss goals, although that's when a lot of people start to kind of think about it. We need to focus on it way before, no matter what, for our children, for us, for our husbands and partners. It matters for everybody. And I'll talk about some of the metabolism related issues, and you'll see a lot of them don't even have to do with your weight. You can be underweight, or you could be at a regular weight and still have a lot of these metabolism related issues. And that is because your metabolism, I want you to think of it as it's responsible for anything that requires energy to function. So hormone production, digestion, having regular daily bowel movements, the breakdown of food, your body temperature, your energy expenditure, like your body's ability to burn calories. It's all dependent upon your metabolism. So a lot of people think of metabolism as just being fast or slow, and it's like stuck, especially, after 30, we might realize, oh, my metabolism's slowing down. It's not that. It's just that it's changed due to the amount of stress that you've put on your body from, a young age up until your 30s, and any amount of dieting that you've done or exercising that has impacted your metabolism. So it's not something that's fast or slow, and it's not something that only relates to how much you weigh or how much you can eat. Like you say, oh, they have a really fast metabolism, they can get away with a lot, they can eat a lot. That's also just not true. It can change. It is adaptive and it is reactive. So it is the regulator of your mood, your energy, your digestion, your body temperature, your hormone production, your thyroid hormones, your sex hormones. All of those things are reliant on a healthy metabolism. So it's interconnected with, when we talk about metabolism, we're really talking about thyroid hormones, we're talking about cortisol hormones, which is your stress, we talk about sex hormones, it's all intertwined. So that's why it's so important to pay attention to and to understand. And when you approach nutrition and lifestyle factors and movement from this place of supporting your metabolism, everything else kind of takes care of itself and you feel really, really good. And I mentioned in the beginning as well that I wish I knew more about my metabolism. When I first started counting calories and exercising, because that's literally all I learned, it was like, count calories, the less the better, low calorie, low fat sort of foods, and then exercise more. The more the better. And I would exercise solely to burn calories. I didn't think of any other like benefits to it, right? And that combo, and I see this a lot in women who come to me, especially over the age of 30, is that combination of calorie restriction and over exercising, especially the chronic cardio. So like 5-mile runs, hour-long spin classes, doing these things that your body wants to get really efficient at day in and day out, and isn't necessarily building muscle, while also restricting the amount of energy you're putting in by way of restricting calories, your body starts to compensate and everything will slow down. So it might feel good for a little while, but then after it catches up to you, and that clean eating, counting calories, exercising combo is what gets us into this situation in the first place. So we want to eat and move in a way where we're supporting our energy needs and building muscle so that we maintain a healthy metabolism, so that your body doesn't actually work against you and cause all of these symptoms that I'm about to talk to with a quote unquote slow metabolism. So I'll say slow metabolism, I say sluggish metabolism, I say broken metabolism just to kind of like get people's wheels turning if they're like, oh, is my metabolism like messed up? Again, it's working, it's just not working in your favor. So it's doing what it's supposed to do because it's conserving things for you to help you survive, but it's not helping us with our energy or our mood or our periods or our fat loss goals. So some signs that your metabolism is working against you, and I posted this earlier yesterday in the actual Facebook feed, so if you want to see that list, you can go back to that. But low energy and chronic fatigue is a big one, especially if you've like slept 8 hours, you're still tired in the morning. Low mood, anxiety, depression, all of those things go hand in hand with sluggish metabolism. And I'll also use sluggish metabolism and sluggish thyroid kind of synonymously, because the thyroid is basically the master of your metabolism, and that's just like your thyroid gland, which produces thyroid hormones, and there are a lot of thyroid hormones. Slow digestion, so everything's slowing down, and slow digestion leads to food intolerances, SIBO, which is small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. It can lead to bloating, it can lead to reflux, constipation if you're not going to the bathroom every day, or if you're just not having a complete bowel movement. So you go, but you feel like it's kind of incomplete, that still qualifies as constipation. Hair loss is another big one. Brittle nails, so your nails break easily or they don't grow at all. And then skin issues, so hair, skin, and nails. Think about those three things. So dry skin or breakouts, especially in the winter if your skin gets like dry really, really easily, and nothing topically is helping with that. Unexplained weight gain. So I say unexplained weight gain because this is weight gain given that you've already been trying to lose weight. So you are cutting calories, you know you're in a calorie deficit, you know that you are moving your body, you're not completely sedentary, or maybe you haven't changed anything with the way you eat and move, and you start to gain weight. And that's a sign that your body is burning less throughout the day. So that basal metabolic rate, your BMR, which is how many calories you burn just at rest if you're not doing anything, that has slowed down. And that's, again, your body's protective mechanism so that you're not burning as much during the day because you're not getting in as much. So it's smart and it's trying to help you. But that can show up as unexplained weight gain. Any period related issues, so irregular periods or heavy periods, really painful periods, and then leading up to that you might have PMS and a lot of symptoms during that luteal phase, which is like the 10-ish days before you actually start your period. Low libido, so low sex drive. Again, the production of hormones isn't happening as it should, so that leads to low libido. Also, infertility or difficulty getting pregnant because you're not producing the hormones as you should, your body doesn't want to reproduce. It doesn't have the capacity to support another life. And so it's not going to let that happen because it's trying to just support your own life in that season. Another big one I see, which I feel like is so common, and I hear people talk about it as if it's normal, but feeling colds all the time. So you're always the coldest one in the room, even when it's hot outside. You're like, I need a sweater or a jacket. You need something, especially with your hands and your feet and like your nose. So any of those kind of extremities. You're cold all the time, and you can test this. I'll talk about this in a second by actually taking your body temperature. So if you run low, like a 97.0 regularly, that's a sign of downregulated metabolism. When your metabolism is where it should be, usually you're 97.5 to 98.6. And you can test this out by after you eat, your body's digesting that food, therefore it's burning energy. Your body temperature should increase. So you can take it first thing in the morning, and you can take it after meals as well to see if it's responding as it should. And then lastly is sleep-related issues. So you're unable to fall asleep, which also ties into cortisol, which has a downstream effect on thyroid. But if you can't fall asleep, you're feeling super wired, but you're tired, or you wake up frequently throughout the night and you have a hard time staying asleep. So lots of seemingly unrelated symptoms that are all related. They all go back to this umbrella that we could categorize as metabolic issues. And of course, metabolism, like I said, goes synonymously with other hormone issues: thyroid, cortisol, adrenal health, sex hormones, estrogen, progesterone, all those good things. And if you're confused about all that stuff too, just make sure you're following me on Instagram, because I do post actual posts on that go a little bit more in depth with kind of bigger picture of how all of those hormones are connected. So let's talk about, and I just want to last thing just mention this concept of like metabolic adaptation or compensation. And I use this a lot because they're kind of like very, I don't know, mainstream sort of buzzwords, I guess. But really what we're talking about is the combination of undereating, chronic dieting, whether it's on purpose or not. Like maybe you've just been a busy mom for the last 10 years, and you think that also adding on a layer of, cardio to that every single day is helpful for you, but you're in a calorie deficit chronically. You're at 1,600 calories and your body actually needs 2,400 calories. So that's chronic dieting, whether it's purpose or not purposefully. Food restriction, so maybe you're for me it was very strict paleo. So you're maybe cutting out entire groups of carbohydrates, or you're low fat or vegan, not getting enough protein. And then restricting other just kind of arbitrary foods, right? Like you don't have an actual allergic reaction to it or intolerance, but you just think it's bad, so you kind of stay away from it, like popcorn, for example. I'm just trying to think of something random that I hear people say, or chocolate. So that's stressful on the body too, mentally. Poor nutrient status is another one. So if you're not getting adequate minerals, again, that clean eating kind of situation where it's like yogurt, smoothies, salads, chicken breast, things like that, usually lacking in really important nutrients that'll help to support your hormones and your metabolism. So if you've ever dieted, this is one of the red flags, how you know. If you've dieted, you've cut calories, you've lost weight, and then you gain it back, and then it's harder to lose weight. Each time you do that and you yo-yo, it's going to be harder and harder to lose weight. It's more stress on your metabolism, which is why, honestly, the people who are following a standard American diet, they eat an excess amount of calories, they don't exercise a lot, it's going to be really easy for them to lose weight the first time. So whether you're on wherever you're at on the spectrum, right? Whether you've already kind of yo-yo dieted, you've counted macros, you've lost weight in the past, you gain weight back, you want to lose weight again, and you're showing signs and symptoms of period issues, digestive issues, things like that, you need to support your metabolism if you want to lose weight in a healthy and sustainable way. And if you're on the other end and you've never dabbled in this stuff and you're I just want to make sure I do it right, then you're in a really good place, because, and this is again why I wish someone was just going to tell me, they're oh, you want to lose weight and you want to, gain some muscle to get that toned look, I want you to go into a slight caloric deficit, just 100, 200 calories, still eat all these foods that you enjoy, focus on balancing your blood sugar, and then do strength training like 3 to 4 times a week. That's the way to do it. Very slow and steady. You don't see this like 30-day transformation, but you see this 10-year transformation that actually lasts. So think about what you see on The Biggest Loser and literally do the opposite, because that's not for you. And a lot of those contestants also gain that weight back, just kind of as an aside. But anyways, we want to just acknowledge the history of our dieting habits, our exercise habits, and how that is showing up today in this metabolic picture. All right, so now we can get into the actual how. So what are we gonna do? What are we gonna change? What can we focus on to either improve our metabolism or make sure that we don't screw it up, like in the first place? So I have a framework that I like to use, and it's the 5 M's. And this is the framework that I also use I have an entire course on it. It's called Metabolism Renewal. I don't talk about it a lot, but it is available, and I'll link it below. But this is like essentially what's outlined in this course, and we go in depth with each step more than what I'm going to touch on here. So the 5 M's, this framework that you can think of, is measure, meals, movement, manage, and mindset. I always put mindset into frameworks no matter what, because it's so important. So with the measure piece, we're measuring our metabolism, and we can do this with labs. We can do this with a full thyroid panel. We can do this with looking at mineral status. A simple at-home test you can do is body temperature, so tracking your basal body temperature first thing in the morning. Again, it should be above 97.5. And secondly, biofeedback, listening to your cravings, your hunger, your energy, your sleep, paying attention to your menstrual cycle symptoms, all of those things. The biofeedback is your body's way of communicating with you. So body temperature tracking and biofeedback, those are 2 ways to measure at home without like going to get your lab drawn to see, what the health of your metabolism looks like. So that's the first step that's really helpful. And what gets measured gets managed. So if we're just like throwing darts in the dark, we don't really know what we're focusing on. But if we can see like, okay, this is what's off and why it's off, then we know how to move forward. The second M is meals. And this is where we're talking about everything nutrition. And that's what I'm going to give you some steps in this Facebook Live today. For just the nutrition, because if we were going to do everything, it would be like a couple hours. So we're just going to talk about the nutrition. But for meals, the biggest things to focus on: balancing blood sugar, eating adequate bioavailable protein that's easy to digest, and eating adequate calories. The adequate calories piece, especially from a metabolic standpoint, is really, really important. And a lot of women don't know how much they should be eating. So that's why in Metabolism Renewal, there's an entire lesson on like how to calculate your specific calorie needs, and how to work your way up to those calorie needs if you've been chronically under eating, or if you realize like, oh, I've actually been in this excess, you can just decrease slightly and your body should be super responsive. And then the third M is movement. And this is where we have to completely unlearn what we know about like burning calories, and the more the better. You should be like doing this intense workout and be lying on the ground after, drenched in sweat. We want the perfect combination of stress lowering movement, so that's walking, especially walking outside in the sunlight, and weight training with proper recovery, because we want to build that strength. And you can of course sprinkle in higher intensity things if your stress levels are okay and your body is like kind of earned the right to doing those more intense exercises with adequate nutrition and sleep and things like that. But walking and weight training, those two are going to be really important. And then the fourth M is manage. So this is where we're talking about lifestyle stuff. So managing sleep, managing stress, and then the mindset piece. The biggest one here is getting rid of the all or nothing mentality, or like the on track, off track sort of mentality. And that's always a work in progress, but it is important. So that's the overview of a 5M framework. And so what I'm going to talk about today is the nutrition stuff. So I'm going to give you some tips that you can start with if you're like, all right, my metabolism is kind of out of whack, or like I just want to support my body in the right way. So starting with food, the first one I mentioned is eating adequate calories. This is like a prerequisite to everything. If you've been low calorie for a while, knowingly, it's important to start slowly increasing that, especially if you've noticed like just your weight stalling. So you cut calories, you lost weight, and then you plateaued. That's a red flag. So you want to slowly increase those calories while still incorporating the non-stressful movement. You don't want to like increase the calories and still be doing a ton of stressful movement. So you got to find that good balance with that. I recommend using like a TDE calculator where you figure out what's your body's total daily energy expenditure. And this is something that I provide in Metabolism Renewal. We also do it with our one-on-one clients. There's like a how much to eat section that we focus on, and that walks you through figuring out what your calorie needs look like. A lot of women are surprised when it says like you need 2,100 calories, and then I've been trying to eat 1,600 calories, and maybe you have like been 1,600 one day, but then you realize like another day is 25, and you're kind of fluctuating between those lows and those highs. So we want to get it to a consistent place of very similar calorie intake day in and day out. So that's the first step. Check to make sure you're eating adequate calories and you know what that looks like. And just like hint, 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 it's nothing less than 1,800 calories to have a healthy metabolism. So either work your way up to there or figure out kind of where you're at now, but that's for most menstruating women. I see some women trying to lose weight eating like 1,200 calories, which is dangerously low, and a quick way to burn out your body and gain the weight back. So just something to keep in mind if you've been in that boat, which I was too. So, okay, step number 2 is to focus on, when you're increasing calories, focus specifically on increasing protein. So increasing protein is not only going to help to balance blood sugar, which means that you can go longer between meals, so 3 solid meals, balancing your blood sugar so you're not experiencing those highs and lows with cravings for carbohydrates and sugar and things like that. So focus specifically on increasing protein. We did a Facebook Live a few weeks back on macronutrients, specifically for hormone balancing and blood sugar balancing. So in that, you'll see that we recommended 100 grams minimum a day of protein. So that's where I recommend starting. Everybody's individual, but if you're not working with this one-on-one, I recommend looking at this to figure out, okay, 100 grams a day, what does that look like? For most women, it's around 4 to 6 ounces of protein per meal. If you don't know what that looks like, let me know in the comments and let me know what other questions you might have about protein intake and things like that. Okay, and then step number 3 is to focus on minerals. I love the M's. So minerals, especially sodium, potassium, magnesium, those are going to be really helpful. Iodine, especially for thyroid health. There are lots of things to look at here, but if you want a place to start, I recommend adding minerals to your water. So pinch of Redmond's real sea salt is great. Or you can do a powdered mineral mix like LMNT is great. Relight is also really good. We also love Jigsaw Health's adrenal cocktail, or their pickleball mix, which is really high in potassium. So focus on minerals with adding it into your water, and then also with food sources. So bone broth, sea vegetables, fresh fruits and fruit juices. These are all literally off the top of my head because I didn't write them down. Fish, so especially like oysters and sardines, are super mineral rich. Liver, which is the most nutrient dense food out there, but beef liver, chicken liver, that's going to be great. Grass-fed beef, so the red meats, lamb, grass-fed beef, bison, those are going to be super mineral rich. And so you can see why we have to look beyond just like eating more vegetables, like kale, null and void. There's not a lot of minerals in there if you're trying to get the amount that you need. But grass-fed beef, you're going to be all set there. So some things to think about when it comes to mineral and focusing on nutrient-dense foods. Get really clear on what that looks like. And then step number 4 is not stressing your body out additionally to the stress you already have going on by skipping meals. So going a really long time without eating. If you're waking up, you're drinking coffee, you're working out, you're taking care of the kids, and you're waiting until like 11 a.m. to eat breakfast, you're depleting those minerals. Your body is like, I'm not getting fuel, so I'm also not going to burn fuel. I'm just going to use cortisol. I'm literally going to run on stress hormones to produce my energy. So we don't want to add additional stress to that picture. So we recommend aiming for 3 solid meals and eating breakfast within an hour of waking up. And when you're focusing on 3 solid meals and you're eating enough calories with each meal, you'll find that cravings go away as well. And if you don't feel hungry first thing in the morning, that's a sign of a slow metabolism, right? Your body's like, oh, I'm not going to trigger these hunger hormones because I'm conserving energy, I'm not burning anything. So I recommend starting slowly. Just start with something small that feels good to you and tastes good. And then things will start to get back online. and your body temperature will increase, and you'll realize that you are hungry and you can have those 3 solid meals. When stress is high, cortisol is high, hunger is suppressed, but that doesn't mean that you don't need food, right? You need to get into that rest and digest mode, shift out of that fight or flight mode, and then your body will say, wow, I'm hungry and I need some fuel. So just kind of on a side tip there. All right, and then tip number 5 from a nutrition perspective for your metabolism is supporting your digestion and your gut health with foods that are easy to digest. So this doesn't look like a ton of raw vegetables, a big salad, a big acai bowl, like fruit smoothie sort of situation. Those foods are going to be more difficult for your body to digest, and it's also going to cause more digestive issues if you have a sluggish digestive system. So if your metabolism is already slowed down, we need to make sure that we're properly chewing our food, we're getting into that rest and digest state, but we're also eating foods that are already very easy to digest. So cooked vegetables, even if they're just slightly steamed or roasted, fruits and root vegetables for carbohydrates are great versus something with more fiber that's going to be more difficult to break down. So like a ton of legumes, like a big lentil pasta bowl, or a bunch of bread, right? Like a ton of grains. So we're making it easier to digest from the preparation perspective. And then with proteins, we want to get bioavailable animal proteins that are sourced really well, and then healthy fats. So we don't want to do like canola oil, vegetable oil, things that are going to be more inflammatory. We want to focus on a combination of plant sources and animal sources. So support your digestion by making the foods easier to digest in the first place, and then of course still practice good meal hygiene, getting into a rest and digest state. And then from there you can get a little bit fancier. You can add in some probiotic rich foods, fermented foods, things like that. Everybody's individualized there, which is why I don't recommend that right off the bat, because if you have dysbiosis and you add in fermented foods, you might feel a little bit worse at first, but that's a good place to start with supporting your digestion. When you support your digestion and your gut health, things with your metabolism are going to improve. So those are the 5 tips to start with for food from a food perspective. So eating adequate calories, focusing specifically on increasing protein, roughly 4 to 6 ounces per meal, focusing on minerals, making sure you're getting a really good variety of mineral intake, sodium, potassium, magnesium especially. Not stressing your body out more by skipping meals, so eating breakfast within an hour of waking and having solid meal space throughout the day. And I say solid meals meaning like you make your plate, you sit down, you eat this full meal that you're not thinking about food for the next like 3 to 4 hours. If you go longer without eating, you might need a snack, but that's totally fine. You can still snack, but you're sitting down and eating that satisfying meal. And then 5th tip is supporting digestion and gut health with foods that are easy to digest, easy to break down, and also mineral rich, nutrient dense as well. So those are the food tips. And I obviously oversimplified this for the sake of this Facebook Live. So we go more in depth in metabolism renewal in that course. It's self-paced. You can do the self-paced course and still get one-on-one support. Absolutely, like combine those things. But we do break down a lot of this stuff there. So, and then beyond the food too, we have to look at proper movement. So weight training, walking. If you're doing a lot of cardio right now, and then you're sitting all day long, we almost have to swap that. So it's like, do an hour of strength training and then try to move your body throughout the day in a way that like feels good and natural. And then checking your stress, getting really clear on like where all those different stressors are coming from, and prioritizing sleep, of course, 8 to 9 hours if you can swing it, but we'll say 7 to 9 hours in that range is going to be ideal for a lot of reasons, but from a metabolic standpoint, that's going to be really important. So those are the tips that I have for you guys. If you have questions on any of these specific nutrition strategies, whether it's like protein intake or how many calories should I eat, or what do 3 solid meals look like, then just let me know in the comments or post it anywhere in this group. And then if you're watching this and you feel like somebody else would benefit from listening to this, tag them or invite them into this group so that they can watch it as well. Also, come follow me on Instagram if you're not there, because I share a lot of helpful posts there as well. This is just nice for having kind of like a more private community where we can chat with one another, and we can save these Facebook Lives here so they're all in one place, and you can go back and watch any of them if you need to. All right, that is all I have for you guys today, and I will see you next Thursday. I'll be posting in the group later this week to get some feedback on what the next topic should be. But if you have any ideas as well, feel free to post in the group and let me know. All right, I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.